Indeed, we have learned that Indonesia as a tech ecosystem still one of the best, indeed, and the most interesting field to be explored. We are also focusing not just Indonesia but also to Southeast Asia. But we cannot deny the truth that so many companies, even overseas, would love to come into Indonesia as well. So we believe Indonesia still has the hotbed of these innovations, which attracting not just the startup founders to build companies, but also investors, both locally and regionally, or even globally, to come into Indonesia.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Block 71 podcast. In this series, we are exploring Indonesia, and we hope that through these speakers and content, we can provide a primer for people who are interested into entering Indonesia. My name is Richie Willianto, and today I'll be the host of this episode. I'm from Ravenry. We are a market research agency that is focused on helping companies enter Southeast Asia. And today, I'll be joined by Richie Wirjan, who is from Maven. He's had a lot of experience working with startups and helping them grow their business through investments in Indonesia. So before we start, Richie, would you be so kind to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Ricky, and thank you, Block 71, for inviting. I'm Richie Wirjan. I'm the Executive VP of Maven Asia Capital. We are the multi-fund management company and also taking role as the co-founder and CEO of Foundry. Foundry is an ecosystem platform. We are building the connections of the champions of innovation in Indonesia.
Sounds good. Thank you for that introduction. Before we begin, do you mind sharing a little bit about Maven and how it came to be?
Thank you. So we've been in the field of the venture capital. Maven Asia Capital is actually pretty new, if I may say. But the goal is what we have experienced over the last 15 years of building of venture capitals, including how we can support the startup company. With all the experience that partners have, including the investment team and our regional network, indeed we have learned that Indonesia as a tech ecosystem still one of the best, indeed, and the most interesting field to be explored. We are also focusing not just Indonesia, but also to Southeast Asia. But we cannot deny the truth that so many companies, even overseas, would love to come into Indonesia as well. So we believe Indonesia still has the hotbed of these innovations, which attracting not just the startup founders to build companies, but also investors, both locally and regionally, or even globally, to come into Indonesia.
So from an investor's perspective, do you mind sharing why you think Indonesia is so attractive?
Indeed. You're talking about after the COVID cases or what?
We can talk about before and even after.
I see. So even in Indonesia itself, we have seen quite a lot of unicorns went to IPO,
Yep.
right? With despite whatever the story happening on the market, but we could see that there's a lot of opportunities that been announced and has been explored throughout the times. We have seen a lot of startups that have been struggling throughout the COVID situations since 2020 and 2023 to say. We launched our fund before. We named it as an Orbit Indonesia, $30 million fund, in co-GP together with SBI Holdings from Japan. Before that, we've learned that is it a good time to launch it? That's the big questions for the investors. Should we just wait, right? After this worst situations, and we have seen a lot of startups die, maybe it's better for us to postpone. However, we decided if we want to show the commitment and to show the confidence to the market that Indonesia, despite of the COVID cases, then we decided to launch the fund. To date, from the $13 million fund, we invested to 9 companies. And thank God all of them survived and even thriving during the situation.
That's an amazing feat.
Yeah. And why we confident with Indonesia as the region? Because first, with the COVID, the accelerations of digitalizations is there, right? You're talking across sectors. You're talking about the logistic. You're talking about the commerce. You're talking about the numbers of users. You're talking about how many small medium businesses. The total numbers as of last year is, in total there are 64 million small medium businesses listed in Indonesia.
Yep.
However,
And that is a crazy number, right?
That's a big
Because
numbers.
in the context of Indonesia, we have 300 million people, right? So there's
That's
like
right.
1 in every 5 people that's a business owner, basically.
You could say as the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
But then there's only like less than 20 million successfully digitalized,
Okay.
right? So we still have a lot of opportunities to be captured on that part. You're talking about the healthcare, for example, about the agriculture, like a lot of middlemen. There's always been an issue within the Indonesia agriculture.
And you mind to just clarify quickly what you mean by 20 million successfully digitalized? Like, what does
So,
digitalized mean here?
Digitalized means that before that, most of the small medium businesses using the small and pen and paper,
Got it.
right? You only like having a very bad records of the transactions. Therefore, with a very bad records, you cannot do taking loans from the banks, for example, because it wasn't legit enough as a business. Mostly, it's a family business, for example, mom and pop shop, right? Throughout the digitalizations, the businesses being pushed like you must go digital.
You have no choice, yeah.
Because that's the only way. You cannot do physically anymore with the
That's right.
communication and all. Therefore, the less than 20 million successfully go digital with using the applications powered by most of the startups, the commerce enablers, the fintech, for example. There's still like a lot of small medium businesses have not go digital, right? In the fields of healthcare, in the fields of renewable energy, like what's been mentioned by President Jokowi about the renewable energy in the G20. So the importance of energy, the dependency, how all of this field came in, not just like a solar panel, for example, but what about the e-motorcycles? We invested in one company named Swap Energy. Now, Swap Energy becoming the largest battery swapping infrastructure in Southeast Asia. We own like 75% market, quote unquote, the swapping shares in Indonesia itself.
Again, do you mind like explaining, because maybe not many people understand what is this
What is a
swapping?
swap-
What is a swapping infrastructure, right? Yeah.
Indonesia as the region, we have at least 230 million combustion engine motorcycles, right? We are the world's third largest. The challenge is if we want to talk about the converting the energy to be a more greener Indonesia, then motorcycles is one of the cases we should tap into. Swap Energy founder Irwan decided like with his experience in battery manufacturing in China, he decided like, okay, I want to set this up to change this motorcycles industry. The electric motorcycles, it's been like there's a lot of brands, but the question is it the time? Is it too late, or is it too early? As the investors, we have to take risk, right? Because it's called venture risk, right? This is called venture capital.
Yeah.
You invest because there's a new journey in taking risk, but there's an opportunity lies with such a market. So therefore, Swap Energy decided, okay, we built this so-called the battery swapping infrastructure. So whatever the models of the electric motorcycles coming in, Swap Energy built these infrastructures. So they put this 3 slot of battery, 8 slot of battery on the mini market. In total, they have placed over like 1,400, not just in Jakarta as the main interactions of the cities, but also across Indonesia, including in Bali during the G20 setup. Why is that? Because this is the opportunity of the renewable energy. Why not charging? It's a different concept. We believe when you aim for efficiency, you aim for speed, swapping is the best way. And compared to charging, span more like 4 hours, 5 hours of charge.
Yeah, when you're on the road, you just want the you want the power, right? You want to
And
go on.
if you're talking about the logistic drivers, they cannot wait.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
And in Indonesia, there's a lot of like logistics that's been solved, especially
That's
last
correct.
mile by bikes, right?
That's
E-bikes. Yeah.
So that's one sector. We're talking about the healthcare with Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin, an ex-banker. For the first time ever in Indonesia, we have a so-called from the healthcare industry backgrounds, now he becoming a ministers with a lot of innovations and programs. We believe that the healthcare sector in Indonesia is thriving.
Yeah.
So maybe the questions leading to what are the sectors that exciting and
That's right, yeah.
what are the sectors maybe we should evade. In the context of Indonesia, I believe every entrepreneurs they have the point of view, they have the opportunities that they would like to capture. The matter is not about the idea, the matter is about the executions, which is what we have seen throughout the COVID situations, most founders being tested.
Yep.
We decided to invest only the strongest one to say. We're not planning to invest to give such a support throughout this hospital moment. But we want to make sure that if you survive and you thrive, then you're the one who's successfully pushing through with all the situations and you're building a great companies.
That's right. So, for as an investor, right, for the founders that's talking to you, right,
Yeah.
how do you tell if someone is a great executor or not?
You could see it from the tractions from how fast are they from the ideation phase to be the prototyping to be tested to the market.
Yep.
You I've met with how over the last 4 to 5 years. In total, we have received over like 2,000 pitch deck. Indeed, we did not meet all of them, right? We screen it, but those who having this face-to-face interactions, you will see like how engaging are they. You can see whether they are really have such confidence that this is working, or they kind of like we're still testing it. We're not sure, but maybe we'll do this and that. In founder cases, that the execution matters. If they so idealistic with the idea itself, most of it, the products, is kind of too good to be true, but not being able to be consumed by the consumers. So the traction typically low. But the idea at the time they present the idea, the products, these are the features, these are the demo. It's always been so nice. The slide presentation is very good. But you're reaching out to the very end, okay, what's the performance? What's the result?
Yep.
Oh yeah, we just launched it a month, no response yet. However, if you see the founders that typically seems pretty rough, like they just go,
They're rough around the edges, they're not as polished.
We just go it. We just execute it. We have tested this. It's not moving well. So then we pivot, we change to this. That's the kind of founders that you're looking at because they remain adaptive. They follow the market and they really understand the consumer. I think that's the first important matters about the idea itself.
And so for you as an investor, like when it comes to execution,
Yeah.
like analyzing, someone's execution capabilities, it matters to you that you hear, about their failures, about their trials, experiments. That's more important than like the
Of
big
course.
picture,
Yeah.
the pretty big picture that they're painting in the
Yes.
long term, right?
Even some of the portfolios that we invested is not really like the first time founders. So they have made something before, they failed probably, or they succeed, and then they make this on the second one or the third one. So we know that those experience really build the entrepreneurial mentality, the mindset, and is it really about building the business, not just about like the glorious fame of yes, we are successfully closed the round, we fundraise. Us as an investors in Maven, we believe that investment is only like the first half of the game. It's really about how we can support the company. That's why anytime the startup met with Maven, we always highlighted together with the team that we always ask like what sort of support that you need from us. So we put that as a part of the internal discussions because in the end, if we can give money, any other VC can give money, right? But the question is, can we really contributing to the portfolio companies? If not, then we might reconsider not to. But we also evaluate on the opportunity side, right?
Yeah. As a founder, obviously, when they go and speak to a VC, they care a lot about how they are being perceived, the first impression, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you mentioned that, you would love to hear how Maven, or as an investor, you can help.
Yeah.
Does that, expose themselves, or do they have to be that vulnerable to share, what help they need, and how is that being perceived by an investor?
I think that's a good sign, right?
Okay.
If you being as a leader or the founders, you really know what are the limitations of your resources and also what actually you're heading to. Because in the end, you're looking for partnership, not just money, right? If you pursue venture capital, for example, in Maven, like we have the ecosystem of Foundry, for example. So having said that, you start to digest, okay, maybe I should open up. I'm lacking of this. I need this kind of support. In the end, as the investor, if we have a better understanding about the companies, we can give a better support. If to go like some founders we found like they show up these numbers because we have closed this deal, we have this on our pipelines, but you know that the product wasn't that good. You cover up with tractions, so called.
That's right.
However, it's not that real.
Yep.
We will open up. We will find it out throughout the due diligence process. So you cannot lie, right? Therefore, being open up front, like it expedites the process. It builds the relationship that on the honesty side, on the integrity side. So it makes the communication so much faster. It makes the interaction is so much better because that's what you expect when you build a partnership, right? It's not like, okay, we do this due diligence, we conversate. Once it's done, okay, now let's talk. It's not like that.
Yep.
The first time you felt like, is the chemistry there?
That's right.
Do we see one another that we can do this as a long term?
Do we want to work together?
Do you want to work together or
Yeah.
not? So that's some of the impressions that we will see.
Got it. And I think you mentioned a little bit about execution again, right? So I want to kind of go back to that, but contextualizing it a little bit to, I guess, founders or companies that's not in Indonesia yet, right?
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the key things they need to know, right, that is different about Indonesia to be able to execute here well?
Most of we have seen the waves of foreign startups
That's right.
came into Indonesia. Throughout the conversation we had, we asked actually who's the local partners. That's number one. Even better is to have the local C-level on the board, right? Because despite of the experience you have built on your country, anytime you came into Indonesia, it's a different vibes. Not just the way you communicate, including the consumers, how you interact with consumers. We found out some foreigners, they tried to tap into go to the grassroots level, talking to warung.
And these are foreign founders.
Foreign founders.
Got it.
We knew that the performance will be challenged. I won't say it cannot. I would say it more challenging in compared to if you invited a C level or at least the country head level to be local and talk to the warung, for example, the ibu-ibu, the bapa-bapa.
What are the typical challenges if you're a foreigner trying to connect with the local?
Communications. Indeed, there's a language barrier. That's number one. Second, the impressions. You will see as in the consumer. I'm talking about the SES of the C market, for example. They will see you as a bule, for example.
Yep.
Then the words they try to spoke is very hard, right? And then they might give a different answers.
Yep.
That might not fit you. So you thought that, that's the answers.
Yep.
But probably from the consumer side, no, that's not my answers. But I don't know how to address it.
I understand what you mean, yeah. And just as context, bule in this in Bahasa means foreigner. Foreigner, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, it means foreigner.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, I guess, cultural markers of Indonesians is that, first of all, Indonesians are already very, very polite people, right? We're very soft-spoken and very polite to each other. And more so with the bule, right?
More so with the bule. But this politeness could be the challenge for the founders.
Yeah.
The foreign founders might thought that this politeness means it's an acceptance.
Yep.
It could be like we might not accept it, but we eager not to address it because it might perceive as an offense.
That's right.
To you as the founders. So that's why having a local, if you want to try it by yourself, it's okay. It gives a good experience for you to digest.
Yeah.
But I would suggest find a local partners here, like a local team members to really dig in about what is really happening on the market.
Yeah. So I'm myself an Indonesian, but I've lived overseas for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And work in Singapore for a long time. When I first came back to Singapore, to Jakarta about like 6 years ago, I had the same problem because and also I'm not from Jakarta. I'm from Medan, right? So
okay.
even between like the two cities, both in Indonesia,
Yeah.
our cultures are so different
Yes.
that when I came to Jakarta, people are a lot more polite, soft spoken, and
Yeah.
they tend, quote unquote, to be more agreeable.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
they seem to like say yes a lot and they smile at you, they're very nice to you. But actually in their head, they're like, no, we're not going to go ahead.
no.
So
Yeah.
even I, as an Indonesian, have to learn, you
Yeah.
know, like to readjust, to kind of like, you know, read between the lines a little bit. More so if you're foreigners, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
So having a local partner is definitely helpful. And I like your advice on, you know, like just because you're a foreigner and we suggest that you work with a local partner doesn't mean you shouldn't be hands-on. No, you should come and
You
see
should.
for yourself, right?
You should test it.
Yeah.
You should know. So anytime you met with the investor, because typically as a local, for example, like so local investors, the question, this including, for example, the foreign, the fresh graduates from overseas,
Yeah.
right? There's a hype from the Ivy League. You will get invested directly.
Yeah.
In our
The
cases,
seal of quality there.
yeah. But in our cases, we challenge.
Yeah.
Means that while you are overseas, you've learned, for example, 4 years of educations, and then you might not directly go to Indonesia. You might work at the US, for example, for 2 years time, and then you fly back. So it's really like 7 years at least. Within 7 years, like Indonesia, it changed so fast,
Exactly.
right? So we question towards the on ground experience. You can bring in your experience because of your working overseas, but then when it comes to Indonesia, how fast can you adapt? How fast can you really learn the culture? How fast can you learn that the product might not fit in, therefore you have to change it periodically to fit in with the market, for example. That's also one of the key evaluations.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you. I think like even like between COVID and now, things have changed so much in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
So let alone someone who's gone to university for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, right? So it's definitely going to be different. And in talking about all these rapid changes in Indonesia, you've been in Indonesia as an investor for many, many years as well, right? Do you want to share a little bit on how the investment landscape or even like the types of companies you're seeing have shifted in the past 6 years, you know, from before COVID to after COVID now?
In our experience, before COVID, after or during COVID, or even after COVID, actually nothing much changed. Because the way we do assessing the portfolio, the potential investee, is really like being so prudent. That's why, for example, in a year, we typically only invest up to like 5 companies or even like 3 companies. You only invest like 3 companies? It's pretty slow, right? However, we did our homework. Like before we meet with the founders, we usually did our study on the industrial landscape. We learn on agriculture, like from the upstream to the downstream.
Yep.
We learn from the small medium businesses within the ecosystem. We support, for example, one of the program, so-called the Pengusaha Muda Brilliant. It's an entrepreneurship accelerator program for one of the Bank BRI. Throughout that experience, we learn what exactly needed by the small medium businesses. So understanding the landscape, understanding the industry, and also the user, then we can find it. Who's actually what sort of startup that can fit in
Yep.
to fulfill these challenges. So, having said that, however, during the pre-COVID, you will see there's 2 paths in venture capitals. Either they go like the spray and pray model, right, or they go to a more prudent approach, or they do also the venture builder approach, right? Then throughout the COVID, right, most investors put on hold, right, because most of them, I believe you, for example, as the founders, you will always hear like, we'll wait and see. Let's talk again in the next 3 months. Let's talk again in the next 6 months, for example, because they're waiting who really survive throughout the situations. So now after the COVID, you start to see all of the founders that really kind of like do their job, build the company on the strong fundamentals. Now you start to see where the investors, right? We're expecting in after the elections, right? There should be a significant raise from investors' appetite. Indeed, still some of them kind of like wait and see. But maybe I will share not about the investor side. I would suggest for the founders, despite of the wait and see moment from the investors, is what you are doing during the processes until you talk again to the investors. Most founders, this is what I've seen. They're actually after the investors say maybe no, right? Or maybe they said, okay, I'll revisit this deal again in the next 6 months or 3 months. Most founders accept it as a no. So they cut the communications,
Got it.
right? And then they reach out again on month 5, right? And then they text, hey, I would like to revisit the communications
Yep.
because you said 6 months ago. Then you have kind of like you have to redo it again. Why? Because in the investors we have
Yeah.
a lot of backlog. We
That's
have a lot
right.
of deals working on
Yeah.
while you're not communicating with us.
Yep.
So what the founders do, they should actually keep maintaining the communication, sending an updates throughout the emails. Hey, thank you for last month conversations. Thank you for your feedback. We've executed your feedback. This is what we have done. So giving such tractions, it gives an exposure, not to say a commitment. It gives an exposure from the investors. And at the time, say the partners saw your post on LinkedIn. Hey, I haven't seen this company. Have you? And the analysts go to the LinkedIn or they go to the, oh, I found the database. So they don't have to reach out back to you. Hey, what's the progress? You consistently send an email,
Got it. Yeah.
right?
It's a relationship, right? Ultimately, right?
In the end,
And-
it's relationship, especially if we're talking about the Indonesia
Exactly.
and the local investors,
Yeah.
right? And building that kind of relationship is really important, right? For the founders, especially for the foreigner founders. Like in the end, you want to come into Indonesia, you have to build this kind of relationship. It might take time. I would say if you're not being patient or you're being too pushy, we might hold back,
Yep.
right? But try to maintain the communications in such a way.
Yep.
Back to the cases of the pre-COVID, during the COVID, and the post-COVID. Now, the post-COVID case changed because both sides, the startup side and also the investor side. Startup, now we've seen quote-unquote most survival.
Okay.
Right? The best who survive all of this tech winter.
That's right.
The investor, because of the situations of, say, the first wave or even the second wave, the first 5 years or the first 10 years, the spray and pray situations. Now, the question is, what's the result? Right? Which is, might be, ended up in a very bad report because of the COVID. Most of this spray and pray, companies died.
But I guess that also gives them like some sort of indicator what kind of companies will
That's
work,
correct.
right? Yeah.
That's correct. And on the other hand, now the investors will like to giving more tough questions, giving more checking back what's your business fundamental. While during the COVID, like you cannot show such performance because you try to retract back to the business model and you have not shown such performance. So then investor now becoming kind of like, okay, I thought during the COVID, we start to see more or better companies. Now, post-COVID, we start to see, okay, so now most of the startups try to reiterate again the business model. So it takes more time for the investor to come in, right? Therefore, throughout these 3 seasons, like in the end, since this is the podcast for founders, and maybe not majorly directed to the investors, but as the founders, I strongly convince you, if you have not kind of like revisit the way you do your businesses, including your fundamentals, like what's your bottom? How can you reach EBITDA positive? How can you expedite to reach out that EBITDA positive? Is there any positive trajectory that you made? Before that, maybe you push it like in 3 years, we can turn positive. In what way you can make it earlier? So it gives the investors like confidence to, okay, the founders can turn up this business. So then it leveraged the investors to came even faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I really like your point, especially on, in a way, like positioning the founders from the context of the investor, from the perspective of like empathizing with the investors a little bit, right? Like the investors sometimes say no, not because they're not interested. Timing is important, the right level of information and traction is important, right? And they might actually be interested in your ideas, but it takes time to actually see the results of it. And in addition to that, I think I like the fact that you mentioned about patience. And in Indonesia, relationship does take time.
Yeah.
Right? It does take time. And if anything, for a foreign founder, that's something that they might not be used to, especially if they're not coming from Asian background, right? Like, coming to Indonesia, they feel like, oh, everything is so slow, why can't we get direct answers, Because I think culturally, we are more geared towards, building that trust first, and things will smoothen much more quickly after that, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
In the past 6 years, right, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, I think you've mentioned or you shared your story from an investor's perspective. How do you see founders shifting their behaviors as well so far?
I think most founders now, the glorifications of the product features, the numbers of how big is the users that have registered within the platform.
Oh, we love that.
But the KPI is changed.
Exactly. The sustainability element now is becoming more important, not just the top line, right? Yeah.
For example, we no longer just seeing like the registered users.
Yeah.
We're seeing the numbers of paid users. In one of our portfolio, Alsera, before we came in 2 years ago, they have 8,000 paid users.
Okay.
Right. Post investments, we support them by, for example, we help them to hire the C-level, the chief commercial officers, set it inside the company to support the company to thrive and make such an acquisitions and partnerships. Within 2 years' time, now the company already generated, now becoming 24,000 users, paid users, 3x within 2 years. How is it possible? Because there's such a support that you expect from the investors. That's why it's called the smart money.
Yep.
Right? You're not just taking a dumb money. Yep. Okay. I received the term sheet. I sign it. Okay, I got the money. Let's party.
Yeah.
Right. But don't do it that way.
I know what you mean. Yeah. And I just want to emphasize one thing, which is I think you mentioned you came in and helped them with the C-suite hiring, right? And I've been running my own businesses in Indonesia for many years, and it's very, very difficult to find the right talents in Indonesia. So don't underestimate that value.
Thank you for highlighting that. And we tried to filling in also from the managerial side, because in the end, we questions like what sort of support you need. So throughout the investment memo, we noticed that what sort of support that we should contribute to the company. Then that conversations is becoming more engaging. It's becoming such a partnership between the investors and the startups. Back then, you might see from the founder side, you might feel like anytime you meet the investors it's kind of like becoming like a demigod. Like the idea is bad, I don't think it won't work here, for example. But now, if you try to accept it, try to filter it, in the end, we're the investors. We're not the direct operators. So you're the one as the founders who know exactly what's on ground. So that's what matters. That's important, because in the end, we support what you do as the investors. Unless you don't have a clear grounds, you don't know what exactly you're building, you don't know who should like a market, you don't know what's the result from your product, then we cannot support you. Right? That's kind of a shift of the investors and the startup founders there. Yep.
Yeah, so we've spoken a little bit, I think, so far about how in the past 6 years things changed, I think from a time perspective, right? But I also want to talk a little bit about how the geography like matters, right? So can you share a little bit how investing in Indonesia might be different from investing in other parts of the world or even just Southeast Asia, right?
I see. So first, in why people come to Indonesia, indeed the numbers of the size of the market, right? You mix several countries in Southeast Asia is becoming Indonesia, right? And from the market segmentations, it's pretty broad, pretty mass from the SES level, right, to the top tier market, for example, and including the adoption of the digitalizations, the numbers of the mobile phone use case every day. It can be up to 6 hours or even like 8 hours daily.
People love their mobile phones.
People love the mobile phones, right? So the market is pretty appetizing compared to the other countries, for example. Learning from but we also see it how the other countries is also growing. Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, our neighbor countries, right? So if people asking like, why should we go to Indonesia? First, if you successful, there's so many Indonesian companies try to open up overseas. Some people say it's easier. Some people say it.
To start in Indonesia and then
To
expand.
Indonesia and expand.
Yeah.
Because it perceived as you successfully manage a larger market, then you go to overseas on the smaller scale, to say. So you're replicating the success story. But at the time you from overseas, you came into Indonesia, it's so much larger, right? The culture is different. The consumers, the way they consume your products, it might be different. That's why the key is on the adaptations and the local partners. I don't want, indeed, there's a lot of variables. But I think to kickstart, if you're considering to go to Indonesia.
Can I pause there?
Yes, sure.
So I think we mentioned local partner twice now, right?
Yeah.
So do you perceive or do you see that having local partner in Indonesia is more important to your success, right? Compared to having local partner in other parts of Southeast Asia, for instance? Or do you think it's just in general
I
in
believe
Southeast
in
Asia?
general, if you want to go, I think that's the basic of the Asian culture. Goes to our conversations. We're talking about relationship and
That's right.
trust.
Yeah.
Right. I love it back then. I think I attend one of the conference. They're talking about the strangers issue. Back then, for example, when Uber tried to come into Indonesia, what will be the successful key for us to connect the strangers, either overseas or even locally, is building trust. That's the only way if you want to do it. So how you want to build trust? Therefore, you have to go local. You be with the local, right? Means what? You try to have a deep understanding about how the local works, including try to accept, for example, if we being slow, right? Try to remind us if we being slow, but in such a good message. Sometimes we thought, but I don't say bad words. I'm being direct.
Yeah.
But direct can be perceived as offensive.
Yeah. Ultimately, you do have to adjust, right, to the local.
Yeah.
And do you think it's more so for that for Indonesia than that for like other countries in Southeast Asia?
I think the Singapore side, Malaysia side, Philippines is much more modern. I would say not. I think
they're more direct, maybe, right?
More direct.
More direct, and also I feel like maybe because of the language. Like in Philippines, I think they speak English quite well. Singapore, Malaysia as well. So I guess the gap or the barrier is not as big, right?
Yes, the communication barriers.
For I know that the market, Indonesia, Thailand, for example, especially Thailand, right? Because the English, like there's also similar issue with language, right? And that creates quite a lot of issue for like foreign company coming into the market.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I guess like that primarily is driven by language.
That's I think that's one key. Right, to understand, because if you address it wrong, then you might perceive as offensive. If you don't be direct, you might perceive as what exactly you want to say.
Yeah,
like
they're just confused, right? They're just confused. Yeah,
that's correct.
And Indonesians don't like to ask questions to clarify.
Yeah.
They just smile because they want to be polite, right? They don't want
correct.
to offend you by not understanding you.
by asking for a clarity, that's one way for us to give a better confidence about what you are trying to address actually.
Yeah. Okay. Geographically, where do you think Indonesia's investment landscape? So I'm thinking more of startup stages.
Yeah.
Do you see it's a more thriving early stage startup ecosystem, or do you start to see a shift because we've been doing this?
Yeah.
We have a few unicorns, decacorns, in fact now,
Yeah,
right?
that's correct.
So do you start seeing a shift more towards later stage companies as an investor?
I think we believe both sides is growing. However, the so on, for example, on the early stage, you will see more numbers of startups because they have seen I've passed these tough times. Now I know how to build the startups. Then they communicate within the community, for example. Then they will add up. They will create this more businesses. So early stage investors also will come in more. It takes more time. Why? Because they want to make sure that rather than I put in a, for example, small ticket size, it's rather for me to put in a larger ticket size for you to give a longer runway, right? On the later stage now, because well, some of them
Sorry, I want to clarify that. Like you mentioned that on the early stage.
early
there
stage
is-
probably on the Series A
Yeah.
below.
So Series A and below, there's
Yep.
a preference from the
Preference.
investors to actually, I guess, go bigger rather than doing small ticket sizes.
That's correct.
Do you mind explaining why that is important in Indonesia?
For example, maybe not why is it important in not just Indonesia, but what investors have experienced because of the COVID cases. The company did not successfully manage the timeline of the fundraising. Maybe they project that we have this 8 months of runway because of the COVID. Actually, some hiccups and inefficiency in operations need to burn the marketing money. Then the runway is so much shorter. However, the confidence of investors is take longer, right? Because hey, I think we need more time to see whether your business is working.
Yep.
So by increasing the ticket size, it's filling in that runway gap to make sure that this won't happen again. Rather than I put in 100K or say 500K, why don't we upsize it a bit to be 750K, right? But then these are the KPI that we expect you can pursue, right? That's the kind of perceptions happening at the moment.
So I think for the investors, okay, that makes sense. But for founders who's kind of looking at this new investor behavior, I guess,
Yeah.
right? What do they need to be prepared for?
In the end, you have to show that what are you going to use with the money, right?
So you gotta have a clear plan.
Yes, that's correct. Some funders will love to. Okay, then I'll raise twice as much from the current fundraising round. You don't have to do that. It's just like you have a clear projections about what exactly money you need. But if you get offer more, then please add up what sort of additional plan that you will do to execute this amount of money.
Yeah.
So the pre-seed, seed, pre-A, and A,
Those are gonna be bigger rounds
those
now.
there will be a upper ticket size. I won't say it's gonna be suddenly
Yep.
twice as much,
Yep.
but there will be an upsize in the ticket size, including the quantity of investment. You will see more startup being invested
Yep.
because the tech winter is getting better,
Yep.
right? The investor confidence is getting higher. Then the amount of investment will be increasing,
Yep.
right? Then on the later stage, because we have seen how the founders or even the management, the C level, successfully make the operations more sustainable, right? The becoming more efficient. Then the investors also mostly PE, right? They start to see okay, the operations been run pretty much consistent. Then ticket size can be increased as well, right? So we might seeing the numbers of investment might lower down a bit, right? But the injections might increase as well. That represent a mix of investors' confidence,
Yeah.
including I won't say investors' fear, but let's put it positively about the confidence to make sure that the company really operating.
Yeah, I mean, at that stage, I think prudence of operation becomes more important, right? So I guess that makes sense. I'm actually curious to think or ask you for your opinion on foreign startups or companies that's going into Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
So I think we talk about the different stages of startups. What have you seen to be I guess, like an optimal, stage for a startup who's maybe been being nurtured outside of Indonesia to start thinking about coming to Indonesia? Should it be like, at a pre-A, early stage? Should they quickly come here, or should they have like a stronger base somewhere else and then explore
Typically, what I think should be above Series A
for foreign companies
for
coming
foreign
here?
companies to come in. Why? Because here in Indo, like the pre-seed is more like convincing the investors and the market that building this MVP, right, to make it work.
Yep.
And then you go to the seed round because the product is there. You need to scale up a bit. And then on the pre-A, because you have seen distractions can be duplicated, we should expand it locally, but maybe it goes to another cities, maybe it goes to another areas that you would like to explore. Then we come in the Series A. Then the Series A kind of like, or even the Series A plus, you already gain such recognitions because the amount is also different. Then the perceptions of, okay, the company is pretty solid now on the country. Then you start to consider, maybe if I fundraise again on the Series B or say the Series C, I will put in additional expansion to one country to be used for this fundraising.
That makes sense.
I think
Again, back to what you were saying earlier, you want a strong fundamentals
yes,
to begin
that's
with,
correct.
right? Yeah.
And at the time you expand, it's not as simple as like, okay, I will replicate my success.
It's not a copy and
to the
paste,
other.
right?
Right. It's not
Especially
copy and
Indonesia.
paste. It's kind of like building another new startups, kinda.
Yeah.
Right. But at least you have such learnings,
Yeah.
right? All the good things and the failures. Then you can adjust faster. But I think that's why it's pretty important to build a fundamental first. Then you can go to another country.
How about industry? What do you see as like a thriving industry ready for startups to come into in Indonesia?
Some of the easiest, maybe this is a wrong context to say.
Let's not say easy.
Not easy.
No startups are easy, huh?
No, not easy. Some
I guess
of
the biggest opportunities you see.
still commerce enabler,
Okay.
right? You're talking about the logistic. You're talking about the warehousing.
And are you talking more on the infrastructure like in a
Infrastructure
physical
could be- yeah.
solution side?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Kind of contradictive because some VC might prefer like a very light asset,
Yeah.
right? But if you
But that's
want
always
to-
been the convention, right? In the you want a light asset,
Yeah.
scale as quickly as you can.
But in some nature, we have to understand that there are some businesses require such infrastructure
Yep.
so that you can, on top of that, you can later on build it to be a more light model, right? Because you need to test it, you need to be on ground in the cases. On the commerce enabler, on the fintech, for example, the adoptions of credit cards, the use of this peer-to-peer lending, the so-called Indonesia is pinjol, pinjaman online or online lending.
Yeah.
It's thriving significant or too significant. Right?
Why is it too
It-
significantly?
it's pretty dangerous to say
Yeah.
because a lot of non-performing loan.
Got
right?
it.
And there's a lot of field within this commerce enabler that you as the foreign founders, you can come in and see what sort of the area that you want to filling in. You want to, or maybe I want to tap into the blue collar side, or you want to tap into the white collar, or what sort of sectors or functions that you want to provide. Or maybe I would like to focus on supporting the marketing engine, optimizing the small medium businesses to get a better result from their advertisement, for example. Then those are the cases that they should explore.
Yeah.
Right. In the end, it's hard for me to see what sort of sectors that might be thriving and these are dropping because we believe all of sectors is indeed directly hit by COVID, whether it tends to be a positive situations or it tends to be a negative situations. As the founders, in the end, you are the one who ideally know what you want to build.
Right.
Therefore, try to focus back on the problems and try to see who's your exactly consumers. Then you can test your products.
I think one of the most interesting things, this is my observation, I've seen in Indonesia, is that the digitalization trend is very strong. as you mentioned, like people love their mobile phones, everything is appified, right? But I think in Indonesia, like a lot of successful companies in Indonesia, even though they appear like a digital solution, there's so much operational manual processes, infrastructure problems that they also have to solve in conjunction to building the app or the website. Do you see that as something that is relatively true for most of the successful companies that want to enter Indonesia? They have to deal with the operational infrastructure stuff as well.
Goes back to when you build a startups, you need to build the fundamentals. Right. Back then, as the founders, we hypen up the see your mobile phone. You see your screen. Is your app there? Right. Well, like exactly like the 10 apps that being commonly used by Indonesian or by your consumers is already been absorbed by the giants, and your startup might be on the different folders.
That's right.
Right? You have to scroll it. This is my startups, right? So the glory is not there. I think the wonders of you building the startup is whether your users really remembers your products besides the regular usage of this tech giants like Gmail, for example, Google products, and also WhatsApp, for example. Then this building company experience, right? It's not just putting the products to your consumers. Like if you've been suddenly successful, tractions goes up. That's the back end, the back office prepared for such a
I do feel like in Indonesia that the proportion of the back office operation can be much bigger, right, than in other markets whose infrastructure are much better, whether it's a public infrastructure or
that's correct. Especially if you say you're talking about the logistics and warehousing.
Yeah, some startups build their own, right? Because there's just no option. Who else are you gonna go to, right?
Yeah. So if you're using app, is to help the operation becoming more efficient.
Yeah.
It's I don't think we're at the moment when we can replace human at the moment. The tools being used, the SaaS that you provided to the users, either it's an employee, either it's B2B or you go to the D2C, then I don't think we're at the level that we're replacing human now. It's more towards like these tools is to help the operations to increase its efficiency, to increase its performance up to like X percentage, right? To make sure that it helps the business to grow. I think that's where we are now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. On the point of foreign companies or foreign startups interested in coming into Indonesia, what do you see as areas in which they have an advantage compared to Indonesian startups? And where do you think is the opportunity for them to come and fill in the ecosystem here?
Okay. Well, if you want to come into Indonesia, you can talk to us. Well, that's the easiest way. Where you can reach out to Foundry, for example. What would be the key difference? I think foreign founders, they have a more mature experience, right? Because inside the countries, also they remain competitive. That's where the Indonesian founders might lack off, right? The Indonesian founders, we believe most of them now starting to a dreamer, for example. They believe this kind of the idealism that I should make, but then speed to the market is kind of like off. That's why being pushy towards your idealism and how you test the product is really important.
That balance is very hard, though. Very difficult.
Indeed. But that's the joy of entrepreneurship.
That's the joy of it,
right? You always quote unquote suffer because of you want to make sure this product works.
The joy is the suffering.
That's why it's called passion.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
If you don't suffer, maybe you're not the right founders. I'm sorry to say.
And the joy won't be as good as well when you finally make it, right?
Let's not make this comfort to be too negative.
Right? Let's not go too much into the philosophy of being a founder or entrepreneur. But I'm also curious. I think we talk about founders, but how about like the kind of technologies or the kind of businesses that you think will be best, for Indonesia to import or to bring in from outside? That maybe for us we
Yeah.
are just not ready, whether from a talent perspective,
Yeah.
from an expertise perspective, to build ourselves.
I believe there's a lot of talents coming in to Indonesia as well. While the Indonesian talents being growing,
Yep.
right, throughout the courses. So you have seen the edutech, right?
that's
How we try to push the talent improvement, not just from the level of the say the first jobber up to the say the manager level, but also goes even earlier now with the say government programs from the Ministry of Education. So we go tap into even earlier. Why? Because we want to make sure the Indonesian terms of Indonesia Emas,
Yep.
2045, the
yeah.
golden Indonesia, we will be the most productive country because of the double talent.
Yep.
So it can be a disaster or it can be a very
Hopefully, it's a good thing. Yeah.
good thing for
Hopefully
it,
it's a
for
good
the country.
Yeah.
So it's a mix. I think Indonesia becoming such a wonderful tech ecosystem because you're seeing not just locally here. You see not just the locals feelings in, but also how the Indonesian founders being matched with the other foreign founders. How the Indonesian founders fly out to Singapore, to other countries to try to build such a connections.
Yep.
In the case of they would like to expand. I think that's the beauty of this cultural mix, communications, market mix. Then it gives such a competitive market, which I believe if it's becoming more competitive, means the market is thriving,
That's right.
right? Rather than it's saturated and it's remains slow and quiet.
Sounds good. We are almost at the end of our recording, so maybe I just want to open up, Richie, with some tips or tricks, or advice that you might want to give to someone who is a foreigner thinking about coming to Indonesia. Any final thoughts on that?
Thank you. Throughout the foundry experience and also in Maven Asia Capital, my experience in VC, we have learned that the difference of the foreign founders is how you really being so structured when it comes to building something, how you quite aggressive and know exactly where you want to heading to. My advice would be how fast can you adapt it locally here. It's always been the challenge. I've seen some startup thrive because they have successfully adapt. So I would strongly suggest if you want to come to Indonesia, try to find your way by starting, for example, find a local connections here. You can talk to, there's Ricky here.
Thank you.
You can talk to me, right? You can reach out throughout the link and find, is there a company that might have a similar business model to your company? You can reach out on the manager level, right? Asking, hey, can we talk? Like, is it possible for us to understand how's your consumer? How do you communicate and else, right? Let's start to see if possible to hire, hire, right? If you want to open up this office here, make it physically open, not just like we have branch in Indonesia, but it's not,
Yep.
right?
And
So
that matters in Indonesia, right?
that
Like,
matters
having that presence.
because they will ask like, where's your office?
Exactly.
And you say, oh, we don't have it. Our HQ is in Singapore. Then it might reduce the trust a bit because, oh, you don't have an office? Are you being serious?
Yeah.
So those small stuff could help you at least to start to expand to Indonesia.
Well, sounds good. Thank you so much, Richie, for all the insights. It's been a pleasure speaking with you for this podcast, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Block 71. All the best for you founders out there.